All right, everyone, here we go. Time for some movie updates. We have our film expert Jason in the studio.
Hello, Adrian. How are you?
Yes, I'm excited. Actually, last week on Showbiz Theater, you told us that this week we would focus on several movies.
Yeah, we're going to do something very special today. We're going to talk about not just one film, but several films.
Yes, several films. And why is that exactly? I think it's something related to the Academy Awards.
Yes, this time of year, the Korean Film Council, the government body that supports Korean films, they choose for Korean film which they want to submit to the Academy Awards, the 86th Academy Awards that takes place next March.
So we have several movies shortlisted.
Yeah, 9 films in total. They've been shortlisted and then they pick one of those.
Now, please tell me, I don't think Korean movies have been so far very successful when it comes to the Academy Awards.
Yes, no Korean film has ever been submitted to be nominated for the best film in the foreign language category, which is worrying because Korean films are deemed as some of the best that come out on the global stage. So you have to ask why. Yeah,
it's very strange. So please tell us, what are the criteria for the selection?
Well, it has to be released between October the 1st, 2012 to September the 30th, 2013. But it has to be a film that I guess best represents Korea, in terms of the overall quality of the film, but also in terms of the content, I think.
It has to be released in a commercial theater for at least 7 days.
Yeah, it has to be released in a commercial theater, like you say, and it has to appeal to the Oscar voters. Now, that's the tricky part, because the Oscar voters are very particular about what they want. It doesn't necessarily mean the best films get the Oscars. We've seen that time and time again, that they tend to pick certain films. For example, The British Monarchy is a key winner with Oscar voters, but with Korean films, I think sometimes they're either too dark or they're not quite the film that the Oscar voters are after. We saw this with Pieta last year. It won an award in Venice, but it wasn't submitted. Well, it was submitted, but it wasn't accepted as a nominee.
And this time we have 9 movies, 9 Korean nominees, right? Can you give us the names, maybe?
Yes, we've got Werewolf Boy, A Terror Alive, The Berlin File, My Ratimer, Juvenile Offender, Monchars, Jisoo.
Wow, you memorize all of those.
Yeah, well, I've seen them all, so it does help me. And The Face Reader, which is coming out in cinemas soon, so that's really a promising start for the film.
Sure.
마카오에서 베를린, 무기장사, 공관, 스파이, 암살의 망명까지 이걸 다 어떻게 엮어야 말이 되는 거냐? Soft code.
Now, Jason, among the 9 movies you mentioned a little bit earlier, 1 will be selected to represent Korea, hopefully at the Academy Awards. Which ones do you think have the strongest chances?
One film that comes to mind is The Berlin File, directed by Yoo Sung-won, who's kind of an action maverick when it comes to movies here. He's great at the kind of action set pieces. And The Berlin File is no exception.
It was really fun. Ha Jung-woo.
Yeah, Ha Jung-woo, Yoo Sung-bum, his brother, Jeona Jun, amongst others. It's got a great cast.
About what, spies, North Korea, South Korea?
Yeah, it's an espionage thriller. You've got North and South Korean spies kind of at each other in Berlin, which I think is a very interesting concept, because that is the kind of the old scene of the Cold War. And so I think given that North and South Korea are still divided, I thought it was a very well-chosen city for the film. And I thought that Yoo Sung-won captures Berlin very well. It's very eerie. And it's a very smartly chosen cast, well orchestrated as well in terms of the action set pieces.
The actors were great. I mean, you had Chun Jeon or Jeona Jun playing a couple with Ha Jung-woo. You also had Yoo Sung-bum, who was actually the brother of the director, as you mentioned.
Yeah, Yoo Sung-bum is probably the best character in the film. I love his kind of crazy elements to his character. He kind of is a little bit wacky.
You like crazy actors, don't you?
Yeah, well, he plays this kind of North Korean spy, and he's a little bit nuts. And yeah, he's great at that character. Also stars Han Seo-gyu as well as one of the South Korean spies. And so great cast, lots of running around. And of course the film was filmed in Europe, and so it can't have been easy for the director to have made this film in a completely different country with different languages. And so I think that's something that should be commended. And I think with the Oscar voters, it might ring a bell with the whole kind of Cold War espionage thriller.
All right, so I guess great potential for The Berlin File.
Yeah, absolutely.
밥 처물려면 폭도들 목을 따오라고 이 새끼들아.
사람 죽일 수 있어? 여기 있으면 죄 없는 사람들 다 죽여야 돼.
네가 그 여자 그냥 쏴버리지 그랬냐?
Yeah, Jisoo, if I'm honest, I think this has the biggest potential.
Highest chances?
Yeah, there are several reasons. I think one of the biggest reasons is it's a historical film. Historical films are traditionally very popular with Oscar voters, and so when films tackle history, they tend to perform well on the kind of the awards circuit.
Why is that? Is it because they're more moving, or?
I think partly because that the Oscar voters are generally older, they're kind of older demographic, the older kind of figures, so to speak, and so they just tend to prefer films that tackle history in some shape or form. That's not to say that every film has to tackle history,
of course.
Absolutely not. But films that do look at history do tend to do well in the Academy Awards.
Okay.
And this film is a good example.
And what is it about? Jisoo? What is this movie focusing on?
It looks at the 1948 Jeju Island uprising when the government invaded a peaceful village.
Yeah.
And scores were unfortunately killed. And it's a very profound film. This very troubling area of history was largely unacknowledged until this film came out. And so it's really brought to the stage what actually happened. Visually incredibly strong. Visually it's incredible. The way O'Meal, the director, captures this period of history through these striking visuals. It is in black and white.
You can see it here. It's in black and white here, and we have some of the scenes from the movie itself.
현재 시각 오전 9시 31분 윤영화의 데일리 토픽 함께하고 계십니다.
내가 폭탄을 가지고 있는데 한강 다리를 폭파하겠습니다.
그러니까 폭파하시라고.
한양에서 이름 있는 점쟁이들 관상가들이 다 모였어.
관상쟁이가 왔습니다.
Yeah, The Terror Alive, starring Ha Jung-woo, of course, that sold over 5 million tickets here in Korea. It's been phenomenally popular, especially going against Snowpiercer, a film on a much bigger scale.
Sure.
Then, of course, you have The Face Reader, directed by Han Jae-rim and starring Song Kang-ho.
It's going to come out, it's going to be released here in Korea in just a few weeks, I think.
Yeah, so it's a very encouraging sign in terms of its overall quality.
Yeah.
To have it nominated for one of the submission films for
Sure.
the Academy Award. And then we have My Ratimer as well.
National Security.
National Security. My Ratimer is directed by Yoo Ji-tae, who's an actor well known for his roles in Old Boy, for example. And so that's his big kind of feature debut, which I saw in Busan last year and was very impressed.
Okay, now hopefully one of these movies will be selected, and as we mentioned earlier when we started Showbiz Theater, Korean movies haven't been successful so far at the Academy Awards. Maybe this year is the year.
Yeah, maybe. Let's hope so. I think the key is to take into account how the voters in the Academy vote for their films. So that's the key.
Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed for Korean movies at the Academy Awards. Jason, thank you very much for your efforts here today.
Well, thank you for having me, as always.
And we will continue to focus on the Korean film industry next week as well.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. We'll have another edition of Showbiz Theater prepared for you next week.
Bye-bye.